Alrighty, folks, welcome to the Tuesday Live. I'm excited today to welcome the Angry Prepper coming to us. You're in New York today, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Like you always are.
I'm excited today to welcome
Oh,
the
there
Angry
we are on your computer. I've also got Shawn Mills from Hack My Homestead.
like you always
If
are.
if y'all want
Excited
to,
today to welcome
oh,
the
there
Angry
we are. I'm
Prepper.
going to mute
I've
you
also got
until
Shawn
you.
Mills.
So, Angry Prepper, just wave at me when you find wherever that's playing live on your tabs. It sounds like you've got that. Are you done? All right, cool. I always do that too. I'm like, oh, I have YouTube up, and there's a tab, and where is the tab? And I minimized it. Okay. Anyway, we got Shawn Mills from Hack My Homestead, and we're going to talk about whatever anybody in the live stream brings up. Do me a favor though, when you see us, share it on social media that we're live. I'm seeing that I'm not getting a proper head count right now because it says nobody's here, and I'm seeing comments right now. So we've definitely got people on. Let folks know that we're live, and I will send out a message on Nostr to our Nostrites who like to watch us as well. But let's start with the first and most important topic. Who is the Angry Prepper, and why would I have you on a live stream, 10 days before the Self Reliance Festival?
I guess because I'm speaking there. I don't know. What did Sean disappeared for a bit?
Yeah.
Um, it, I don't know what because I'm speaking there. I guess. And
What made you want to come to the Self Reliance Festival when I asked you to speak? Because you didn't like, you were like, yeah, I'll come. You weren't like, oh, I don't know.
without sounding like a bit of a bitch, I've heard about your self reliance, what you call, for a while, and I was like, oh, that it sounded pretty cool for everybody to talk. So when you invited me, I was like, hell yeah, I'd go. It's one of the most talked about prepper events or outdoor events or homestead that I've heard, and there are a couple of others, but this one, uh, people kept asking me every year. How long you've had it? A couple of years now, right?
For 4 years. We're on our eighth one. Yeah.
Right, in a couple, I think about 2, 3 years now, people kept asking me, "Are you speaking?" I knew nothing about it. So last year, was it last year? Yeah, when you asked me, I was like, "Yeah, I'll come." Sounds like a great event and a great turnout. So why not?
Yeah, I think we're going to have a good one this time. It's funny because as an event organizer, I don't always reach out to people to speak who I should ask. So you were totally on the list of people I wanted to speak. And somebody said, well, why haven't you asked him? And I was like, that's a great question. I'm going to this other festival where I know he'll be. I'll just ask him. Like, the worst thing that can happen is he says no. So I thought, and then we had some fun live stream discussions because I was on your show like right after the first Trump assassination attempt.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you guys think about that? We are now talking about Trump assassination attempts in more than one increment. There's the first one.
Well, so the first one, obviously, that was on the level as far as the attempts goes. The second one was Harry, but there was a third one that most people don't talk about. Not so much that it was an attempt on his life, but it was definitely an attempt on the supporters, right? The bomb scare,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then there was the event in Arizona where a couple of or a few supporters had a burning sensation in their eyes, and a lot of them, not a lot, but a few of them wound up being hospitalized. And there was no mention of this. So of course I Google it, and there it is, and nobody's mentioning how now they're just messing with his rallies. So either they're trying to shoot this guy, blow him up, or blind the supporters. It's like it's insanity. And with the device one, the one in New York or Long Island rather, they tried to cover it up by saying that it was a drill, that they had sniffing dogs in the area, and those sniffing dogs were running a drill, and that they forgot about the exercise package they left behind. I was like, seriously, we're gonna play this stupid game? That's what they're doing.
My thing is this. If if the ruling elite, whoever they are, and I've stopped worrying about who they are long ago because I'm not sure it matters who it is, it matters that it exists. really wanted him dead, why wouldn't he already be dead?
True. That's very true. But also, to be fair, they're trying an old tactic that didn't work, and they're using like this last guy. I don't know if it's connected to the FBI or CIA. I really don't. The breadcrumb trails leading back to him doesn't make sense that the CIA and or the FBI will allow all of this information to get out, be on the internet, and have YouTubers talk about it in such a way. Like I'm not buying that easy path that they're taking. There's definitely more behind it. It's just what is it?
Yeah, like is it a marketing campaign to make people afraid?
Well, I've always thought that when we talk about, the powers that be, whoever those folks are, they're going to take advantage of whatever opportunity presents itself. So if there's some 20-year-old guy in Pennsylvania that they can push a little bit, to climb up on a roof. And I know there's been some people that have called in the question, like, why wasn't that roof covered? And was it not covered on purpose? In an event like that, I'd normally default to people not doing their jobs well over a lot of people working together to purposefully, let something like that happen. Now, I will say that the one in Florida at the golf course, it sounds like the Secret Service did their job, what they were supposed to do, right? But, there's been people that have asked the question, how does a guy who lives in Hawaii end up at the golf course at the same time he was there when I guess the decision to go golfing only happened a day or maybe a day or two in advance? So like, how does he find out, that's where he's going to be in the middle of a campaign where theoretically you wouldn't think dude's going to go down to his golf course in Florida and play around the golf. He's going to go to North Carolina. He's got rallies over here. He's got rallies over there. He's doing interviews. He's doing press conferences. Unlike the other side, which never gets in front of the media at all, Trump always wants to be, he always wants that platform. And so he says, hey, you know what? We're going to take a little break. I'm going to grab some of my buddies. We're going to go play around the golf. I just need to decompress a little bit. And somehow someone who's got an idea about assassination ends up with that information and can get there and get into place. That's a little bit suspect.
You bring up an interesting point about the other side not wanting to be in front of the camera, candid camera, so to speak. Do you remember when second George Bush sort of first came on the scene, and all of his interviews made him look like a complete doofus? And now the other side has a candidate that looks like a doofus if she is left unchecked or unscripted. And instead of like with George too, they just let him be on camera everywhere, thinking that he was not going to get elected, and then he got elected.
Well, I will say
there was much gnashing of teeth.
I think that George II was much more. He was much better in front of the camera before he got elected, and then when he was running the second time, it was like strategery, and so
nuclear.
When he was just owner of the Texas Rangers, he was actually pretty well spoken and had some and was actually pretty good on the debate stage. So there was a lot of people that were saying, "Oh man, 4 years in the presidency just wiped this dude's brain," because in the second election, like you said, it was just like Biden. It was just gaffe after gaffe after gaffe. And it's like, okay, well, let's just put him on the camera and hope for the best.
Yeah, but with Kamala, they're just not letting her talk most of the time.
Well, yeah, the media is complicit in that, right? They're saying, yeah, we'll just give us our talking points and what we're allowed to say and what we're not allowed to say, and we'll just go do it. Don't worry about journalistic integrity. We'll just say whatever you guys want us to say. We won't bring up the fact that she's not really talking to anybody, unless it's with a teleprompter in front of her. So I think that's the difference. Back then, you had a little bit better of a media, and of course, back George was on the other side, so they were gonna highlight all the issues rather than brush them under the rug.
What are your thoughts on that, Angry?
Listen, anything is possible now. I mean, each day that goes by, anything is possible. Everything that Shawn said, is again. I don't know. When I started prepping, I got into this, to protect the family, myself, friends. I didn't want to get into the political side of it, but it's funny how you get drawn into it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first started, I remember thinking all of these things that could happen, and all of these events that were going to unfold, and none of them ever did. Right? So now we're in this political shitstorm, and I just don't know what to think and what's going to happen anymore because we don't. We thought Biden was going to run for president, and that would be it. We thought they were going to replace Kamala Harris. They didn't. Being that she was the most least liked vice president in the history of vice presidency. Then all of a sudden, he steps down, she steps up to the plate, and now she's the golden child. And now everything that everybody was speculating was going to happen, it's not going to happen now, at least in regards with Biden. The only thing that I'm speculating is that maybe Biden steps down and she becomes president in the last couple of months and then does some crazy shit with martial law, federal martial law, which is very, very hard to pass and to enact. So there is that. But everything that we thought was going to happen, it's not happening. So when it comes to politics, I have no clue anymore. Kamala Harris is a buffoon. She's a babbling moron. She proves to us that she is stupid, and she's a raging alcoholic, by the way, because she has the telltale signs of it, and people will still vote for her. Trump isn't making his run this time any better, and I really don't want to vote for the man, but I don't want Kamala Harris to win. So this is the fucking boat we're stuck in right now.
Yeah, in your state, does your vote matter?
No. I could write myself in, and it just wouldn't.
Maybe you should Angry Prepper for President 2024.
I wrote myself in the last time. The first time when Trump ran, I didn't vote for him because I know what kind of guy he is. He's just a dick, And then we saw Biden stepping up to the plate for the second one, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to have to vote for this guy. Writing my name is not going to help. But writing my name and voting for myself, voting for Harris, voting for Trump, it doesn't matter in New York State. It really doesn't, right? Though Trump is pushing hard in New York State. He's pushing harder than he did the last 2 times he ran. So that tells me there's something up with New York State, and there's a possibility that she can lose, not so much lose, but he can get close to taking New York from her, which counts if he gets that close, because that means any other state that he wins, it just adds to his votes, his electoral votes, whatever that is.
Yeah, I think that there's something to trying to close the popular vote gap. So I think you're seeing a boots on the ground effort to get Republican turnout in Democratic areas because of the popular vote argument. And then the other side of that is there's probably some down ticket things. We're like, okay, well, we know if we turn out more Trump voters, maybe there's a city councilman over here where it's really, really close. If we can get X amount more Trump voters out of that district to vote, we get a down ticket win, which can help. And I'm like you, I don't enjoy politics. I don't, I'm pretty agnostic to the whole thing. I think that it's 2 wings on the same bird just trying to screw us all over. But, from a preparedness standpoint, this time of year, we have to have our head on a swivel. We got to watch and see what's going on, and we got to be prepared to react, to what's happening. And so it's irresponsible to not at least be informed well enough to recognize, okay, on November, I don't even know what election day is. What is it, 11th this year?
I think
You
so.
know, um, we need to be aware, or especially the next day, if you're in a hot area like where you are. If Trump does win, there's going to be people on the streets the next day protesting, just like there was in 2016. And so it's like, okay, well, I need to know what roads I need to stay off of. I need to know, this area is going to be shut down because people are going to be walking in the streets. Fine, I'll go to that other grocery store. Just little things like that you got to be aware of, because if you're not, you could get caught up in something you don't want to be a part of. Like Nicole, weren't you in Missouri after the Michael Brown,
It
when all that
was,
happened and when the protests were happening? Did you
I was in
accidentally end up in?
Ferguson, Missouri, and they had already had protests that had gotten violent that were spearheaded by Anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to fly in for work, and so idiot me flew in for work right like within 3 blocks of where those were happening. And we were sitting there after a long day of workshop sessions in the hotel, and the rioters came into the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't cause any problems. They just walked through the hotel looking ominous.
Yeah.
But imagine had that been different. Like, that was an incident where, because my prepper adventure has not been much on the self-defense side, right? Originally. That's not how I got here. That's when I became aware, as safe as I feel in this country, or have always felt, like walk down the street, not worrying about getting attacked, like all of those things. Actually, some situational awareness is really good. And the best way to not get beat up or killed in a riot is not to be at the riot. And
Yeah.
so, like, do I want to be embarrassed because I decided not to do this project that's like right in the middle of an area that's rioting or might riot, and then it doesn't happen? Or do I, would I rather feel embarrassed because that happened, or would I rather be dead? And I kind of look at hurricanes that way and a whole bunch of other stuff, right? Like, one time I was driving to Mississippi and there was a hurricane coming and a gust of wind hit my car, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? And I got off at the exit, turned around, and drove home. I was like, why would I drive towards a hurricane? Like, what the
Right.
fuck? Like, there's going to be flooding. There's going to be people like who have drowned. Like, I don't need to be in that scenario just because, a friend was getting married. And I would have had to drive through the worst of that hurricane to get to the wedding. And I was like, sorry, man, like, it's terrible to miss your wedding, but it's also terrible to be dead.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So
we know that these crowds are seated, whether it's seated with government agents or whether it's seated with just people that want to, they want the counter protesters and the protesters to come together and clash. Just, it's like the from one of the Batman movies. Some people just want to see the world burn, and so even if you like agree 100% with what a group's message is, the idea that you want to be in the middle of that, whether it's peaceful or not, right? All it takes is one little match to light the tinderbox, and then things can start going sideways. I mean, we've seen it over and over and over again, where these mostly peaceful protests turn into
peaceful but fiery.
Yeah, like it's like someone that it's like it's someone that goes and shoots somebody, right? They were mostly peaceful. They just had that one bad day. It's like it's ridiculous. But you don't want to be in the middle of that. So from a preparedness standpoint, being aware of it, having your head on a swivel, understanding what's going on in your area, where you don't accidentally get caught up in it. Those are the things. And of course, that leads us this time of year. We talk about politics a lot more than we probably should, but it's just part of that situational awareness.
Yeah, I don't think any decision you or I make, and I know our votes, probably all three of us, aren't going to impact the outcome of the election. But the part of the election that does matter is knowing what's going to happen, what we think is going to happen if Trump gets elected, and what we think is going to happen if Kamala gets elected. And I saw a comment here about, I don't think there's going to be an election. We've never delayed a presidential election and the international optics of not electing our president don't help us. So I think there's going to be an election. I think it would take a whole lot more than what's going on now to stop it.
Yeah.
Whether or not the election is like the scale at which the cheating happens, because we know the cheating happens either way, right? The fake votes, the dead voter problem that we have. The scale at which that happens is more the question. It's like, is it going to be a lot or a little bit? That's where I'm coming from on that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it'll appear to be less this time around because the polls are already starting with the lying about how well she's doing in the polls and how she's beating Trump. I just read last night she's beating Trump in Pennsylvania by 6 points. I go, bullshit. There's no way. Most of Pennsylvania had already stated that they were going to vote for Trump when Biden was running. Now all of a sudden Harris steps in again. The least liked vice president ever. Now all of a sudden she's 6 points ahead. She's not doing any interviews. She has no agenda. She has no policies. Or rather, she stole her policies from Trump and Biden. And now she's 6 points ahead. And then somewhere I read last night that she was 12 points ahead. I'm not sure if that was overall, but listening to a guy last night, he said the internal polls, Trump is ahead. So there's a lot of lying going on in the polls, regardless. And if they do take it this time, at least it's not as obvious as it was the first time. So come hell or high water, she's in. Now, if something weird happens where he blows her out of the water come election day, then his head's on the chopping block. And
that's how he got it. That's what happened last time, is they didn't see it coming and they were shocked that Trump had made it. Trump was kind of shocked that he made it too.
And listen, I thought he was playing a game the whole time. I thought he was just doing it to, be him and look at me kind of deal, right? I thought he was being an attention whore.
He might have been.
Right.
I'm president.
Right. He's like, shit. I fucked up. I went too hard.
I got to get a cabinet together.
Right. So, but now I think he liked that power, as all people do, right? And then they want more of it. The power is addicting. And for those people who have never had it, when they finally get true power, like Trump had power, right? He can run around the city, he throws money at people, and he gets things his way for the most part. But when you have that true power, it's addicting.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to give it up. There's been presidents in the past who stepped down after their first term and wouldn't run. But for the most part, I would say the last, 100 years or so, there hasn't been a president that stepped down willingly or hasn't run the second time. There have been presidents in the past that stepped down because of family issues, or they just didn't like the stress that came along with the job. But these last few presidents, man, no one's fucking bowing out. They want that power. So obviously he's running this time around for the people. He did state, though, he's not going to run again if he loses this one. He says I think he also realized he's too damn old.
He's too damn old.
Yeah.
He's a whole lot less witty. The one thing about the debate is he's a whole lot less witty. I can't believe I watched half of that thing, but I did, because I'm a glutton for punishment. And I thought, he was a little sharper on the comebacks, and that naturally happens, I think, as you get older. The little hamsters in your head start running a little slower, and then you're like, you do the after the fact thing. Man, I should have said that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he's Trump, so he falls prey to the ego attacks.
Oh yeah, he's an easy target. They go, oh, look at this guy. Let's bring up the cat thing, and then he went all in on that. And though it might have been true, it might not have been true. Yeah, man, it's something you don't do. You stay away from that talk, because granted it was on the internet. One video proved it, but you got to stay away from internet anything.
Right.
You saw he was all in on it. I'm like, is this fucking guy crazy? What's wrong with him?
Yeah, stay away from the fringe stuff. Stick to the stuff that impacts everybody. Well, what do you guys think of the what's going on over in the Middle East with the beepers exploding and the radios exploding and all that.
Did you see what happened last night or yesterday rather?
The rocket attacks.
Yeah, Israel went bananas. I was like,
Yeah.
now all of a sudden, I'm gonna say this much, and it's gonna sound cruel, but I also don't give a shit. The Middle East, Lebanon, what is that? Gaza. They love using kids as a number game, right? So last night there was an attack, or yesterday rather, excuse me, there was an attack, and I think at the time when I read the article, it was 34 kids that were killed in the attack, and that was the first number that jumped at you, not the total amount of people, but 34 kids and 239 adults or people were injured. And I'm like, they're playing the game. Now, Lebanon is getting their asses handed to them with rocket attacks. They were hammering Gaza. Iran is undoubtedly going to step in, and things are looking bad over there right now. Now, whether we go to a full-blown nuclear attack, I don't think so. I read some new shit about Russia, and Russia doesn't have the capabilities, or there are people that seem to believe Russia doesn't have the capabilities to do what needs to be done because they got their money and troops tied up in Ukraine. So morally, Russia can back Lebanon, Iran, and Iraq, but physically and monetarily, they can't. China is smart. They're sitting on the outskirts watching all of this unfold.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to jump in at some point, but I don't think to the magnitude we're thinking they're going to. I think they're just going to, like cheerleaders, egg them on kind of deal. Though China did talk about wanting to broker a peace deal between Gaza and Israel, or whoever the fuck it was. Who's the troops in Israel? Is it Hezbollah or the other ones?
Yeah, so I think it's Hamas in
Right.
Gaza.
Right, and so they wanted to broker a deal between those two, and then that stopped. And all of the brokering deals that everybody promised they were going to do, Russia, Kamala Harris, just a few months ago, nothing. So shit's going to get well out of control. I just can't. I actually can't wait. I'm excited to see how bad this is going to get.
Well, my concern is we just decided to send 30,000 more troops over there.
Right, and they said it was a small number of troops, and I said small number would be anything under 10,000.
Yeah, well, how many do we have over there already if 30,000 is just a small addition? I thought we had like a carrier group over there and some subs, but apparently there's more than that.
Way more than that. And they started their move earlier this year, or middle of this year, excuse me.
Yeah.
And after what Israel did to Lebanon, the United States is like, shit, I guess we're in this. Right? So boots on the ground is going to become very, very, very bad if we actually get involved to that level. They did state that their excuse for moving 30,000 troops was to make sure that the American citizens still in Lebanon are brought out of it. I'm like, you don't need 30,000 troops for that.
Well, and if we still have American citizens in Lebanon after all of this has been going on for a year, or well, what was it? When was the initial attack? I guess it hasn't been a year, but
October 2nd.
So it's almost been a year.
Right.
Yeah. So if you're still over there, you're not like those 30,000 troops aren't getting you out. You want to be there.
Yeah. You're a glutton for punishment, or just an asshole. I mean, you choose. The other thing is a lot of the American citizens, if you will, a lot of them wind up being also Lebanon citizens as well, right? So like they have that dual citizenship, so they count them into the American, and when actually they're just Lebanese people who, have American citizenship as well. So if they want to stay there, leave them there. I don't see the problem. Like you said, if you didn't see the writing on the wall from, at the very least, July, you deserve to stay there. Fuck it.
Yeah.
That goes back to that situational awareness thing. Like, war is breaking out. Perhaps I should get my butt out of here and not be in the middle of the war. So Stacy's asking, if we keep putting troops in other places, how do we have somebody left here to defend America, or is that the point maybe?
Well, we've got plenty of people here. I mean, for the last 7 years, we've had the least amount of forward deployed troops that we've had since like World War II. So after World War II, we had tons of folks in overseas bases because we were helping to, rebuild the world, or at least Europe. And we were helping to rebuild Europe, and we were just keeping a really strong eye on the Japanese. So so we've got plenty of troops here. I don't think I think that the military industrial complex wants as many wars as possible elsewhere, but they don't want anything over here because this is where the stuff's made. Like, it's a money game, And so, I think that I don't think that our defense on our 50 states is an issue. Having gone out to Hawaii several times and seeing what's there, it's like, well, that's a tough place to defend, but they have so much Navy over there. It's not even funny. And so, I don't really see that being a big issue. But here's the thing. The more people you have in a theater of war, the more likely someone that's not supposed to get shot gets shot from one side or the other. And then all of a sudden, now there's a reason to go to war, So that's my concern when we say things like, oh, we're sending 30,000 more troops to the Middle East. That's 30,000 more opportunities for one side or the other to make a mistake and pull us into another 2-decade, multiple $trillion-dollar, Ponzi scheme, basically, that feeds the military industrial complex at the expense of our soldiers' lives.
Well, yeah, people, and again, this is why I'm always on the asshole side of things. But
we like you there.
The problem is people bought into the American rah-rah bullshit. 9/11, America, and don't get me wrong, I will die for this country, but not for the fat cats and the rich fucks who exploit our troops for bullshit, right? Because there are other wars that we should be in. We should be in certain countries in Africa defending those people and their lives. Instead, we go to a place that's, enriched in oil, and we go over there and go, oh, well, we need to protect those people. No, you don't. You got your profits over there. That's why you're protecting. But a lot of Americans are too stupid to see past that. They just saw 2 towers get taken down, and they just became enraged, and they didn't see beyond the bullshit. They didn't see that the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq were all bullshit. Now, I remember telling one of my buddies who was a Navy guy, who was a corpsman, we got into a blowout argument over this shit. And 10 years later, he goes, I guess there were no weapons of mass destruction. I go, remember that argument we got into? He goes, yeah. He goes, well, how did you know? He goes, because I listened to people who were in the field. I said, you're over there, but you're not over there at the capacity of paying attention. You're following orders. Mm-hmm. You're not doing anything to investigate. Like that movie with Matt Damon, Green Zone, when they were looking for the weapons of mass destruction. And he kept going all over the place. And he goes, I don't see anything. What the hell's going on? That's exactly the bullshit that they run. And then they have the same thing with Ukraine, having us feel sorry for Ukraine and the nonsense going over there. I'm like, we buy into it because we're easily manipulated. Right. So if you're not easily manipulated, you are AKA an asshole. Because then you say shit that people are thinking but don't want to say. Or people
they don't want to hear it.
Right, and they don't want to hear it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny that if there was weapons of mass destruction, well, they didn't make them from 2000 to 2001. Right. We had been in there since 1990. We just happened to have discovered these weapons of mass destruction, even though there was zero infrastructure to actually create them or to import them in the 10 years that we had our eye on them. But 3 months after 9/11. Oh yeah, weapons of mass destruction. We got to go in there.
Yeah, they're moving them around. And then they said it was a complex underground caves. I'm like, you fucking kidding me? How stupid do you think you are? I'm like, and then when they asked about the complex caves after they found out there was no weapons there, they go, oh, they buried them or backfilled them. There was some weird excuse. I was like, you mean to tell me hundreds of miles of caves, they backfilled all of it with what cement? And people believed it. People go, oh, okay. Like Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden was dead years before we went in there and took him out. Obama's approval rating was slipping into the toilet. If not, it was in the toilet already. There was a report about a year or two that came out saying that bin Laden had died in a bombing attack, or what is that called? Where they shoot the missile into the ground. I forgot the name.
The bunker busters.
Thank you. And he had died in one of those. Bin Laden was a dialysis patient. He was shitty looking and sickly looking after 9/11. You mean to tell me for all of those years he was hiding out in the ground, in the dirt, with no dialysis? You have to be on a specific diet. You got to be in a specific environment for that. Mm-hmm. You can't be sucking in dirt and dust and underground. And so, of course, they go in, they tackle this guy, and then they take his body and immediately throw it off a ship.
Yeah, buried at sea.
Yeah, I'm like, you fucking kidding me? Like, at first when they caught him, I was like, okay, all right. But as soon as they slipped up and said, oh, let's wrap him in cotton and throw him into the ocean, after his daughter, I think it was his daughter, stated that she wanted the body and they refused to give the body to her, that was the red flag, because they always give the body back. If we would have put Hitler's body, we would have given him back. Mm-hmm. And any other terrorists, their bodies get sent back. And his bullshit reason, oh, we don't want to make him a martyr. He's already a martyr.
Yeah.
Too late.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, that's the lame excuse. Anyway, so this is when my conspiracy theory brain started going into overtime, and I started, like, noticing the bullshit that was going on. I was like, all right, maybe it's not as clear-cut as it is. But it goes from both sides.
100%.
Yeah. So, stepping it back for the people listening to this live stream, probably the ones on your channels don't need to hear the answer to this, but my channel possibly. You said the reason you didn't believe there were weapons of mass destruction is you had talked to people on the ground. So, what triggers you to start looking for other data sources when you see claims in the news so that you can try to work out what's really going on? Because obviously you're skeptical of what anything the media is going to report, as are many of us, but then people still feel help. They're like, okay, what do I do next?
You gotta you look for videos that get demonetized or people that get blackballed or blacklisted. You look for those videos, and those people are the same people that will always tell you the truth, because as soon as they do, they're blackballed, right? So for example, for Mr. 19, right, COVID. For Mr. 19, there was a lady, Tenpenny, right? Sherry Tenpenny. She's a doctor. She's an autistic doctor, matter of fact. And she talked about the arm ticket, the Mr. 19 arm ticket. And I'm using these codes because you said the video get flagged. So the Mr. 19 arm ticket, she comes out and talks out against it and why it was bad. And, of course, they blackballed her. Now, this doctor was world-renowned, well-respected. She could do no wrong. She walked on water, for Christ's sake, right? And then all of a sudden, she spoke out against it, and they started blackballing her, and that's how I knew she was telling the truth, because they went after her immediately. And now what do we see? We're seeing the same nonsense that she talked about. Mm-hmm. When a couple of troops, I think one of them might have been an ex-CIA agent, said that there were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, what did the study find? What did the study come to find out? There were no weapons of mass destruction, and there were no tunnels. So again, it's the people who they want to blackball, the fringe thinkers, if you will. Those are the people that I listen to. And listen, I don't listen to all of them, because some people are like really far out there, you know. Some people are like, Michael Jackson's an alien. Shit like that, I stay away from. But things that have a trail, or things you could look up for yourself, like anything involving Bill Gates in Africa, if you start following that breadcrumb trail, there was a town in Africa, a village in Africa, that he entirely wiped out because he tested a product on it. A lady from a neighboring town did a report on this on YouTube a few years back, probably 10 years ago now. And her video was instantaneously taken off of YouTube. You look it up, and a lot of people in that town died, and they said they died from uh, CO, carbon monoxide, maybe. What's that? Sulfur. So they said that there was a pocket of a water geyser that dried out, released this toxin into the town, and killed almost everybody except 5 people. One of that being a kid whose entire family died. He crawled to the next town, or towards the next town, until somebody found him. They ran to the town, and everybody was dead. Bill Gates so happened to be in that area a couple of days prior to that happening.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody had to have been vaccinated or arm ticketed with something, and they all wound up dying the same way, except for the 5 people. And those 5 people were severely sick when they were found. So they went with the sulfur gas being released excuse. The lady talked about what really happened, and then they took her off the air. Up until that, I thought it was a sulfur gas thing too. I was like, oh man, that's fucked up. But when she said what she said, I was like, oh shit. And so anytime Bill Gates likes to go to Africa, you're like, he's going to kill a whole village of people.
Well, you think that maybe part of the reason why you don't see, the U.S., which we're supposed to be the world's moral police, but we're allowing these genocides to happen in Africa. Do you think that the reason why there's no political, there's no one in politics saying, hey, we should be over there preventing this entire, group from being executed by the next village over or whatever, is to allow for that kind of stuff to happen and get swept under the rug?
So, yes. When it comes to Africa, Africa's a giant test field. Right. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the African governments or countries, if you will, they will take whatever money comes their way to have their people tested on. Mm-hmm. Listen, it stems from, and I hate to go there, slavery. Mm-hmm. A lot of African nations allowed the Dutch to come in and take these people and sell them off as slaves. They were being paid pennies back then, or trinkets, for human life. Mm-hmm. That stayed in Africa for centuries. And so now they work on people and test a lot of things on people in Africa. If you look at a lot of the arm tickets or products that come out, they're tested in Africa before they get here to see if people can handle whatever it is. The Ebola arm ticket, and there was another one that were tested in Africa first. They were supposedly ready for human trial, which it wasn't, because they use humanoid mice, right? Or mice with human DNA or genes, excuse me. A lot of those experiments, the mice wind up dying. And then they go, well, let's see if it has the same effect on people. They go to a small town or village, and they wind up making a lot of people sick, crippled, and then they pay off the government, and they switch the story around. Mm-hmm. Happens all the time. And I mean, like, I've seen it here in New York on a small scale when we respond to shit, and then the news reports it, and it's like not even what fucking happened. You're like, you're like, fuck, man, we were there at that. That didn't go down the way it did,
The story's more important than the truth.
Yeah, and then sometimes it is the truth. I mean, we had a guy who was shot. No, wait, girl was shot in the hallway in an apartment building. Gunshots ring out in an apartment building, especially when you have an open staircase system. And this building had an open staircase system. So a lady gets shot in the head. The lady is laying in front of a door. The neighbor, I guess, opens up the door as my firehouse, the guys in the company, are working on her and going, oh, I heard this 2 hours ago. They stop and go, what? Yeah, I heard a pop 2 hours ago, but I didn't think anything of it. Girl laid there bleeding for 2 hours. Story comes out that she was shot and robbed and then died moments later. No, she died 2 hours ago. And it's how they changed the story around to either A, make you feel bad for the person, which they normally do for the inner city people who, I hate to say it, have it coming to them when they act like assholes their entire life, and then their life catches up with them, and they give you the song and dance. Let's feel sorry. Michael Brown was a case in point. Michael Brown was a piece of shit. He gets shot in the middle of the street because he was taunting the cop, and they played a different story on how to feel bad for him. They do it all the time. Change the story around, or change the narrative to have you feel bad for that situation.
Right.
And they just make subtle changes. Like, that's a really subtle change. Died moments later. Died moments after the EMTs arrived, maybe.
Right.
Different thing. It feels like moments later.
Not found DOA on arrival. DOA.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, she fought for her. And it's little things like that the media never reports correctly. Yes, apparently she was shot 2 hours prior to first responders getting there. Mm-hmm. Right? Instead of saying that, they go, well, she was shot 2 hours ago and she was still alive, and they worked on her and brought her to the hospital, and they give you this song and dance. I'm like, that's not even close to true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true story is she was shot, and that's so commonplace in that area that 2 hours later no one had even thought to call it in.
Because it was just a pop.
The crazy shit it was during the day, and nobody went up and down the stairs and saw her laying there.
Right.
That's the craziest shit. Like the whole thing, like in a building, you have people in and out, but no one saw her laying there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. We had a guy die in front of the firehouse, and it was 2 hours before someone knocked on the door to let us know that there was a guy outside.
They just thought it was a homeless guy sleeping
in a weird position. What is that called? Downward dog? I'm not sure, but that's the position he was in. And we went back and watched the video, surveillance video, and people walked by him, stepped over him. One guy even looked, nudged him with his foot. 2 hours of this shit in front of the firehouse. No one, because it's not like we don't stand at the firehouse door watching and going, like we're inside. Whether we're eating or relaxing, shooting the shit. We didn't know, but when we watched the video, and as soon as we opened the doors, and they told us, and I looked from across the street, I'm like, I could see his eyes from across the street. I'm like, he's dead. And I yelled at one of the guys, I'm like, yo, he's fucking dead. And they go, holy shit. So we went back inside, get the shit, and start working on him. But he was gone 2 hours outside, And they said a guy had fatal heart attack and died suddenly, and he did. Because he was walking, and the video is crazy. He's walking, he drops his phone, he picks it up, he walks again, drops it again, goes to pick it up, doesn't get back up off the ground.
Wow.
Downward dog position.
Wow.
Holy shit, man.
He needed to hit 911 on that phone.
I think that's why when he dropped it the first time, we go, oh, nope, that's not it. And then he dropped it the second time, we go, no, and then that was it. He was out. I was like, he was probably having an episode, and then his body was failing, and then that was it.
Hope I never live anywhere where the population will walk around my dead body for 2 hours before saying anything to anyone.
No, people drove by in cars and looked because the cars slowed down, and then they took off. I was like, holy shit! Yeah, listen, it's the Bronx, man. Shit happens.
Is it because they think it's going to lead to them getting in trouble, or it's going to take too much of their time because now they're going to have to give a statement? Like, why do you think that culture has developed?
Well, so that culture developed because and I hate to say this, it's going to sound like an asshole comment, but it's a black neighborhood, and black people, for the most part, mind their business, right? Whereas in a white neighborhood, they don't know how to mind their business. So everything's an issue. But when the two guys have walked right by him, that was a concern. It's one thing to walk by, like you walk across the street, or you're a few feet away and you look, you go, that looks stupid, But when you walk by him, you can see the guy's eyes and you can see that he's dead. That was where another side kicked in. I think just people don't give a fuck, Like, it's not their problem, so I don't have to deal with it, But the one car that drove by, the guy drove by, he stopped, he pulled off, backed up again, stopped, got out of the car, looked at him, and took a step back, and then ran over to the firehouse. Like, that's all they had to do. Everybody passed him. All they had to do was go to the firehouse, knock on the door, and like, yo, he doesn't look right. At the very least. But 2 hours of everybody passing him, that was a little concerning. But it's definitely a demographic thing, because again, in another neighborhood, they would have been like, yo, something wrong with this guy. But in this neighborhood, especially the South Bronx, they just didn't give a shit, And they also minding their business.
Yeah, none of my business.
Just let it be known for the record that the angry prepper just called me a Karen. Okay, here's one. I was wondering if the second moon was going to come up, and the second moon, we're getting a second moon on the 29th of September. So what are your thoughts on the asteroid breaking the laws of physics to enter an orbit and then leave? I was so disappointed as I looked into this to discover I wasn't going to be able to see the second moon. Like, it's so small you can't see it even with a home telescope. You have to go to like an observatory to have the strength.
Yeah, it's like the size of a school bus.
So can you even call it a moon if you can't see the moon? That's the second question. What do you guys think about that one?
I wouldn't think anything of it. When I said the second moon, I'm thinking that it's just going to be in the sky.
It'd be cool.
Right, and just like the Halley's Comet, right? When it shows up, it's in the sky for like a week or whatever it is, and then it leaves. The call of the second moon's a bit harsh, and he's right. If it's breaking the laws of physics to enter an orbit around us, is that what it's doing, and then leave? That's fucking weird. Something don't sound right.
It's breaking the laws of physics.
We've launched satellites. So if you look at some of the satellites, like the Voyager satellites, for example, where we've done gravity assists around pretty much every planet beyond us in the solar system. I'm not a physicist by any means, but the idea that something that's smaller than a gravitational body can enter its orbit momentarily and get slungshot out of it is not breaking the laws of physics. What happens is it's gonna take, I think, like a month and a half actually to do a partial orbit. It's not going to fully orbit the planet. We're going to grab it. Essentially, it's going to do a partial orbit, and then the sun, which has a much greater gravitational pull than we do, is going to pull it out of our orbit. That's my understanding of it, and that all has to do with how fast it's going and the angle of approach and all these other things.
So then it's like the Halley's Comet. Then that's what it does the same shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's not streaking across the sky. It's just asteroid.
Yeah, it's very, very small.
So why even tell us about it? We can't fucking see it.
I know. I was like, why are we even talking about this? If they hadn't mentioned it, we wouldn't have even noticed it was there. I'm going to say this. In addition to, because there's an alien invasion scheduled to happen October 5th and 6th, the fact that the Earth is also getting a second moon for the Self-Reliance Festival is just a reason to go.
Yeah, for sure.
The background on that angry prepper is that every time we have the event, people tell me why the world is ending so they can't come. And I'm like, where else would you want to be?
Yeah. Well, that's that whole thing. It's like, I'm not going to live my life because I'm afraid. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. That's not what the festival's about.
Right.
So, yeah. Second moon. I actually had it on my list of things we might talk about today, but then I was like, well, we went off on this political thing, which went more political than I thought we were going to go today. But so, what are you doing in your life that doesn't require knowledge of politics at this point?
Oh wait, like photography. That's all. I've been diving deep into that, trying to get more work as a photographer. Again, expensive hobby, so I got to start selling something because there's 2 cameras I want. There's actually 2 body cameras I want. One doesn't make sense to do because it's entirely too expensive, and that's starting a new ecosystem. But
now, how did you is this something you've been dabbling in for a while, or you just dove into it?
I was taking. All right, so as a kid, I always grew up liking pictures. I love pictures from the past, right? There's a picture of Harlemites in Harlem from the 50s, from maybe the 40s. Awesome picture of everybody from the community church standing out front. I remember seeing that picture and going, where are these kids today? The kids that were in the front. And then my favorite picture are the Irish guys sitting on the building. I think it's a Chrysler building being built, and they're sitting on the beam having lunch.
Having lunch? Yeah.
Right. That's an awesome picture.
I've got that picture hanging up above my desk in my office.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
That is an awesome. I love that picture, right? And then so, like, looking at pictures growing up, my mother and her photo albums, and I just got into it. So I would say about 8 years ago, maybe, I started taking pictures with my iPhone. And then I started wanting to just be more professional, get better grades. So I started, looking into Sony cameras and Sony lenses. And that's where I stayed, because Canon, Nikon, they can eat an ass. But, like, Sony is where it's at. And it's just something to get you out away from the bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We do this prepper shit where we get sucked into the political world, whether that's the political bullshit of YouTube and other preppers or just the world climate. You got to get away from it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And taking pictures, especially like in the wilderness, going for a 3-mile hike that turns into a 10-mile fucking adventure, that's where I want to be at. I like taking pictures of, as gay as it sounds, plants, flowers, insects, people in the city.
Mm-hmm.
That's where not that I thrive, but it just takes me away from all of the bullshit.
Right. You get in a zone and you can just focus on that thing.
Oh, listen, if I go waterfall hunting to do long exposure photos, I could be in the forest for 5-6 hours and then notice the sun's going down and go, shit, I got to get out of here, because that's how lost I got in it. But, what do you guys like to do? Getting away from this shit.
I'm turning my front yard into a pond right now.
Uh-huh.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Yep. I'm building what they call an organic swimming pool. So I've got a 20, let's see, it's probably closer to 40 by about 50 hole in my front yard that it kind of steps down. It's got a filtration zone on the side, and it's been a pretty interesting project that I've been working on for, I guess, a couple months now.
How long is it going to take to finish?
Well, I figure I'll have it properly finished next summer, because I've got the rocks I've got to do, and then I've got plants, and I've got, decks that I'm building around it. So I'll take care of the decks and everything this fall, and but I won't be able to get the rest of the plants in until like next spring.
Yeah,
so,
they'll get wiped out by winter.
Yeah. Most aquatic plants are not overwinter plants, so I could buy them now and then they'll all die, or I could just wait till next spring, which is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, that's a very deep question you asked me. You wouldn't expect this to be a deep question, but my life has changed a lot in the last 6 years or so. And I realized that a lot of the things I did for enjoyment or to get away were enjoyable because of the people I was with, rather than that I liked doing the thing. So I've been really diving deeply in the last year on what do I like doing when I'm just completely alone. And actually spinning wool, of all things, like who would expect that, is one of them. I used to be a competitive swimmer, and then I never really got into open water swimming. This year I got into open water swimming, but that's a seasonal thing. And I can I have this like swim buoy and all this stuff so that I can be visible to boats. But I thought I was into kayaking because I kayak with people, right? And that's fun with the people. Nope, I like open water swimming by myself. So counter to Shawn, I've gone a totally different way, and there is a swim spa being installed on my property because I also like swimming against resistance to do that exercise, because I do like exercise, but the only kind of exercise I love, like with a passion, is literally swimming. So I decided I needed a new car this year because my car was totaled in an accident. And instead of buying a new car, I bought a really old car and a swim spa. So I was like, the swim spa will make me way happier than a really nice car. So I'll drive my 03 Tundra for a while.
Now, how far into the winter do you think you can use the swim spa?
All winter.
Oh, okay.
We'll see. That's why I started those Sauce Swims videos, is once the swim spa's in, I'm going to record every time I swim, partially for my own accountability, because if I'm investing in this and investing in my health, then I have to do the thing, right? So I'm going to see how far I can go, and if I really can swim in the swim spa outside when it's like, 22 degrees or whatever out there. But it has a heater built in, so the water can be brought up in temperature.
Oh, that'd be nice.
It's really the streaking from the house to the thing that's going to be the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So I know that's weird stuff, and then I just love learning things. So I like researching, but that's pretty nerdy. I'm a nerd at my heart.
Yep. I understand that. And then
But I think like those things like photography where you go into the zone, though, that zone is really healing, both like for your psychology and all of those things. And when we talk about prepping and how you're going to react in a crisis, when your mind's right, when your head's right, you're way stronger.
Right.
It's like that and being physically capable are the two things we ignore the most.
Well, I mean, that's why I'm, in the gym or stay in the gym, because it sucks, man. I really don't want to work out anymore. I just, but I have to, right? First of all, I have a daughter, so I have to stay in some kind of fighting shape. Secondly, I'm still a firefighter, so I got to stay in shape for that. And then all of these studies are coming out stating that we need to stay in shape, all of us, right? I just read an article on obesity in America, and with women, it's over 40% obesity in this country. We have an obesity epidemic, and everybody's relying on those stupid drugs, Ozempic, and what you call it. And all you have to do is go for a fucking walk. That's it. And if you walk after each meal, you burn a considerable amount of weight off, and you keep fat from forming in your body. Right? But people don't want to hear that. So anyway,
well, it's hard work to have to do the right thing every day.
Well, yeah, I tell people, I said, but do you want to be like for example, women? I tell any chick I know over 40, you should be lifting weights. Period. You don't want to be that lady on the fucking floor screaming and crying, I can't get up. You don't want to be that. You want to be strong. You want to be able to if you fall, catch your balance, right? When you're old and you have shitty hips or bones, rather, excuse me, if you try to catch yourself, that's where a lot of them wind up breaking their fucking bones.
Right.
They try to catch themselves and they stumble even more. They take a harder hit. Now, if you started lifting and simple lifting, no one's saying, lift the world, but simple lifting, it strengthens your bones. It keeps osteoporosis at bay. Not that it keeps it away completely, but it keeps it at bay. And looking at all of the science coming out about working out, especially getting older, we all need to be in the gym doing something. My mission for next summer is to get ripped. But at my age, it starts now. I can't do it in January until June. I got to start now.
Yeah.
But
and people are questioning the just walk. Well, the answer is when you start walking, you get more fit and can do more things. When you get your food right, that really helps too.
Well, and the thing is,
somebody who carries extra weight and I'm constantly fighting it, I get that it's not easy. But I also know that if I eat feelings, they go straight to my ass. That's what happens.
Huh.
So that's the reality of the situation. I had a doctor's appointment yesterday where they did all the blood work. And his first thing was like, you got to be lifting weights particularly between 40 and 65 years old. The more muscle mass you can build, the better 65 to 90 will be as far as the ability to still walk, to still do things that you want to do. And it helps. He's like, he gave me two things to do to preserve bone density. And he's like, it's lifting. I can't remember what the other thing was. I was already doing it. So I didn't write it down, but you're absolutely right. And it's the way that our society has evolved as technology and conveniences have happened. We're just less active naturally because we don't have to be. We can get in the car and drive to the place or whatever that is. We can sit at the computer chair doing our work, and the only thing that's getting any muscle mass are the 10 fingers. So at that point, you have to be purposeful. The thing I'm really interested in diving into is people who work their butts off on a homestead or a farm all day, I believe they should also be doing strength training and at least flexibility stuff. Some like yoga is not the right necessarily thing, but it might be, some yoga sort of thing. But then what is the thing? Like scientifically, what sort of workout regimen do you do if you're already doing a lot of physical labor?
Well, that's the thing I'm actually focusing on right now is flexibility, because I was at a bachelor party Labor Day weekend, and as happens at bachelor parties, it devolves into, hey, there's a beam right there. Let's all jump up and see how many pull-ups we can do. And I haven't lifted a weight in, I can't even remember the last time I lifted. It's been several years. Probably during COVID was the last time I actually lifted a weight, a bar, a dumbbell with some actual real weight to it. So I'm like, man, I'm probably not even going to be able to do one of them. And I was able to get 4 in. And my buddy's like, yeah, most people can't. So I'm like, okay, well, my strength isn't as bad as I really thought it was. But like you said, Nicole, it's because I'm out on the homestead. I'm carrying stuff around. I'm moving things. I've got functional strength, we'll say. But I am not flexible at all. And so I actually reached out to our mutual friend, Jenny, and I said, hey, what would you suggest getting started? And she suggested yoga. Like, she sent me a video, and she's like, from the neck down, yoga's great.
I do Pilates.
All the brain stuff, all of the feelings and, letting the universe into your nostrils and all that stuff. But the actual, working the body and getting into the poses to actually create that flexibility works out. So I just started that.
And what are your thoughts on that, Angry?
With working out?
Yeah, just working. What would you say somebody who's doing physically hard labor on the regular should be doing for working out?
Again, the walking. People kept saying, just walking? Yes, just walking. Multiple, not even, forget the studies. I started walking, when I started doing this weight loss, I was 279, almost 280. All right, let's just say 280.
How tall are you?
5'10".
Okay.
Yes, I'm short, right? So I started walking more first with no weight in the backpack, then weight in the backpack. And if you walk after each meal, which is, for some people, is unreasonable. Some people can't do it. But if you walk after each meal, for example, in the firehouse, I eat lunch, get on the treadmill, walk for 20 minutes. Eat dinner, get on the treadmill, walk for 20 minutes. If somebody's on the treadmill, I'll do the Stairmaster. If they're on the Stairmaster, I do the air assault bike. At our age, we have to keep the body in motion, and we have to keep the furnace running to burn that fuel that we just ate. And it starts to actually eat into your fat after, I think, like week 2 or 3. Because now your body's getting used to this working out you're doing, this walking you're doing. And walking is simple, because what happens is you start walking, you start burning the weight, you start losing the fat, and you start looking and you go, oh man. Then you start stepping it up. Like, all right, fuck it. Let me just do a little bit of a run. I'll do a quarter-mile run, and then I'll walk, and then a quarter-mile run. Or less of that. 200 meters, 100-meter run. You start feeling better. You start wanting to do more. That's why I tell everybody, start with just walking. As far as homestead, you're already lifting, but you need a dedicated program for lifting, for your body, for your nervous system, right? The heavier you lift, the better your body responds to growing muscle, like you said. It protects you from damages down the line. It also helps out with the brain, which I just found out. Lifting heavy helps with the brain. There's a lot of things I'm going to discuss in Tennessee, but there are so many benefits to just working out. And you get out of your own head, right? If you're lifting heavy, for example, and you're like, whatever reason, you're thinking about the election and Kamala Harris or what could happen. You go to the gym and you're like, you get that bullshit out of your head because I got to deadlift 350 pounds. You're going to switch over immediately and you're going to get into the zone and trying to accomplish getting that weight off the ground or try to accomplish getting that chest off your bar, right? Or hell, when you go for a walk on a treadmill, a lot of the times for whatever reason, you leave the bullshit behind and you start thinking about what you could be doing. You know, because walking for some reason in a lot of people's heads is synonymous with future. I guess because you're walking forward. I don't know.
Moving towards something.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever gay theory, it's on that. It is what it is. But you start thinking, oh man, maybe I should do this. Oh man, maybe I should do that, and that starts to start a chain reaction in your head. And then after you get off the treadmill, you're still thinking about whatever you were thinking about. You know, so now you just there's so many benefits to it. I mean, there's so many avenues I can go down. You know, on here I wouldn't do it.
All right. Well, we're coming around. We've been on for an hour, so it's time to wrap up. We're going to go once around the horn. I'm going to start with you, Shawn, then go to the Angry Prepper, and then I'll finish us up.
All
Go,
right.
Shawn.
I am Shawn Mills from Hack My Homestead. You can find me on all the socials, Hack My Homestead or hackmyhomestead.com. I am your source for off-grid information, whether that be solar, rainwater collection, gray and black water management. I've got a bunch of content on that, and I also help people design systems based on their specific issues. If you're in Tennessee, I am currently I've got a line on some pretty cost-effective solar panels right now. So I've been able to facilitate about 6 pallets of solar panels going out to this community. If you're interested in that, Shawn at hackmyhomestead.com. Shoot me an email, and I'll get you hooked up with those guys. And yeah, I'm on here occasionally with Nicole on the Tuesday lives, so you can find me here. I'm not a regular podcaster. I would say from the socials, TikTok is where you can find me. It's easy on my phone. I can get those videos up very quickly, and so you'll see a bunch of stuff about that pond build that I mentioned on the Hack My Homestead TikTok channel.
What Shawn needs is an AI tool that'll grab his TikToks and put them on YouTube in like a series. All right. Tell us what you want to tell us. The Angry Prepper is up.
I guess not much. I do have a new channel, the Angry Film Critic, talk about 80s and 90s movies and films. I am looking for guests for that show because I think it's a little better to talk to people, especially those of us in our 40s and 50s who can definitely relate to a lot of those movies. But that's it. And then, I'll be in Tennessee, either sleeping on the street or in a hotel. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out when I get down there. And and listen, thank you for inviting me on your show today, and thank you for inviting me down to the event. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing you at the Self-Reliance Festival. I think you're going to have fun at John Willis's place too. You can go check out his factory, which is kind of fun.
All right.
One of the things that I'm excited about your presentation is people ask you about bug out bags and all sorts of different things, and you're diving more deeply into the fitness aspect, because that's what we need to hear right now. People are like, what are we going to do to get ready? Well, you know what you can do, and it's free, is fix this.
Right.
It's free. It's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. And I'm pretty excited to hear what you have to say and how far down you've gone that path and how you've transformed yourself as well. So looking forward to hearing your talk and seeing you in person when we can just, chat in the lounge and those sorts of things over at Self-Reliance Festival. Guys, don't forget to get your tickets, selfreliancefestival.com. With that, we'll see you next week.